Sure thing.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Pep Talks Uncut. My name is David Moore, and I'm the president and founder of the Pennsylvania Equality Project. Each week, we run a program that is 30 minutes long, unedited, and unscripted. Our program is intended for the LGBTQ plus community and our allies here in Pennsylvania. Each week, we bring a special guest onto the program, and this particular week is no exception. Today, we have with us Robert Zeigler, who's running for the Pennsylvania Senate for the 34th District. So without further ado, Robert, would you care to introduce yourself?
Sure. As David said, I am Robert Zeigler. I'm the Democratic candidate running for state Senate in the 34th District. That entails Center County, Juniata County, Mifflin County, and about roughly half of Huntington County as well. How much you want me to give?
So, okay, what job do you, in politics, do you presently hold?
So my current office, I am a Millheim Borough council person, is what it should be. It's councilman. It was written in the 70s, so kind of a little outdated there. But I'm also the president of the council.
Okay, so, and just for our viewers' sake, Millheim is located in which county?
So Millheim is on the southeastern part of Center County. If you go a little bit further east, you go into Union County. If you go a little bit south, you're in Mifflin County. So we're kind of the Penns Valley area, east of Center Hall region.
Okay, so southeast of State College.
Yes.
Okay, all right. Well, your opponent in the 2022 election is, I would say he is no weakling who will just take soft punches in this particular campaign. He's a tough candidate. Senator Jake Corman, the Republican. Where do you find weakness in Senator Corman that you want to target?
Well, that's a good question. It's with him. One, he's not really for the people in my mind. The reason being is he takes a lot of corporate PAC money. He's involved in a lot of dark money fundraising. He doesn't really interact with the public much in events. Generally, he's gotten better, mostly because I kept calling him out for that, I think. But I know he's bailed on a lot of events, or he'll send his staff there, which I understand if you're in session, that makes sense. But when you're not in session and you're not going to these events, that makes me kind of curious. Even things where it's in his town, because I'm pretty sure he lives in Bellefonte, if I remember correctly, and he just doesn't go to events, which, I support local events as much as I can. I think that's what any candidate should do. That's what any elected official should do, because you're a big part of that community. But a lot of the things that for him, it deals with things that could be linked to either corruption or transparency and things like that. He's not really transparent about where he gets his money from for campaigns or how he spends that money.
Mm-hmm.
He's also gets a lot of gifts from different corporations, trips down to the Caribbean. And then Spotlight PA's covered a few things that he's done too. He bought like $5,000 worth of rum a while ago. I
didn't get any of that.
Gifts. Yeah, no, that's it. It was it's either Spotlight PA or Politics PA. They cover a lot of where he spends a lot of money on different things, and it just seemingly looks like it's for his benefit. Recently, he's been trying to do some bills for like token transparency and changing of laws, to make things more transparent for the public. But he hasn't done anything to support a gift ban, so that way corporations can just be like, "You want 50-yard tickets to the Eagles game or the Steelers game, depending on what side you support. Hey, do you want a trip here? Because we're going to be talking about certain issues, and it's not for elected officials. It is not as strict as it should be regarding campaign finance and gifts. My own personal take is I would think that there should be a ban on gifts, unless it's like food for an event or something like that. Grandma's cookies are still off the, you can still have grandma's cookies, it's nothing like major like that. But, anything that's above $100 shouldn't be allowed. That's my take on it.
Okay, so Governor Wolf took it a step further when he was elected to office. Both he and Lieutenant Governor Fetterman had an established policy that they would not accept any gifts from anyone other than family members at all. And if family members gave them gifts, it was for holiday reasons or birthday reasons. It wasn't connected to any sort of legislation.
Yeah.
And I think that's admirable. That is a very transparent thing. In fact, we tested them on this. We happened to be at a Pride event at which Lieutenant Governor Fetterman had attended. We offered him a T-shirt from our organization, and he politely declined it, saying that the gift ban prevented him from accepting even a T-shirt. So it's not quite grandma's cookies, but I think the Wolf administration and hopefully future gubernatorial administrations will agree that a gift ban is essential for transparency in Pennsylvania politics. Which takes us to the next question. In terms of transparency, the state government is now poring over US Census data for the purpose of redistricting both the US congressional districts and the state Senate and House districts. So my question is, what methods would you suggest to the Commonwealth that would improve the process of redistricting?
So for me, like there's a bill that came out for that was actually proposed. It's SB 222. That was for the Fair Districts PA group. That's what they got the bill. It came up and kind of got a little bit butchered in, well, not kind of, it did. It got butchered in the committee where they amended it so it wouldn't apply to state legislature districts for redistricting to make it fair. Fair Districts PA is a great organization, do a lot of good work. It's a bipartisan or nonpartisan, depending how you want to view it, entity where they're trying to end gerrymandering for districts. For people who don't know exactly what gerrymandering is, it's basically kind of making districts shape in a certain way to benefit one political party over the other. They say it's not intentional, but it kind of looks like it. One example would be the current 82nd district, I believe, in the House. If you take a look at how that looks, it doesn't make any sense. Like it just doesn't make practical sense.
My understanding is it looks like a C.
Yeah, if I remember right, it just looks very odd. So now in some areas it's kind of hard to do that. Like anyway, like Philadelphia, because there's so much population, some things are going to look kind of odd based on how things are broken up. But in general, in the more rural areas, you shouldn't be dividing up certain regions. For example, I am in Kerry Benninghoff's district right now at the House level, and he has a part of Mifflin County. Now, about 5 minutes north of me is Stephanie Borowitz's district, and then she has a bunch of Clinton County and about half of Center County. So you have actually 4 representatives in Center County at this for the assembly, which is kind of absurd, considering that for each district you need roughly 75 to 80,000 people. I don't know with the census data now where it's at, but usually that's for each district. For the Senate, it's around 250, 260, varies a little bit there. And the Senate's not as bad, but then again, it's 50 districts, and like for the case of 34th, it's actually 3 whole counties and like half of another. So it actually sort of makes sense, logistically speaking. But generally, when it's done, the party that's in power, in this case, the majority party is the GOP, the Republicans, they tend to have more say in the committee that does the redistricting, and it tends to favor them, generally speaking. So they'll make some parts extremely heavily democratically packed, and then they'll have slight or decent majority Republican voters in other districts. This is generally speaking. The Fair Districts bill was to make it nonpartisan, no legislators involved with the process at all, and have a group outside of it do the lines. There's also programs that they have for this. There's all different methods to do it, and having the whole process be visible to the public, which they've gotten better about this year. I will give them credit, like the legislators got better about it. but legislators shouldn't be drawing their own lines. It's as simple as that. And SB 222, I believe, is the bill number. Kind of got gutted for the state level, and they still have it for the federal level. But that doesn't really solve the problem of gerrymandering in the state if the state can still do their own thing. So what I would do, actually, I've publicly supported that before. I totally endorse what the work of Fair Districts does. They do great work. Over 70% of constituents support it, both across party lines. Majority Republicans support it. Democrats support it. So I don't understand why it's even a debatable issue. It's got a sponsorship too of 25 out of the 50 senators. So why hasn't it been done the way it was written?
Right. It doesn't make much sense, but allow me to share with you the whole reason gerrymandering is important to the LGBTQ community is that if the Republicans continue to pack the state House and the state Senate, the longer it's going to take, or seemingly take, for bills like House Bill 300, Senate Bill 570 to cross the finish line. Now, that's the Pennsylvania Fairness Act, and it's been languishing in both chambers since 2003 at least. Where do you stand on House Bill 300, Senate Bill 570? And what do you think can be done to entice those that are on the fence to join the fold?
Well, it's part of it's the times. When those were first introduced, I want to say the understanding of the LGBT plus community wasn't as prevalent as it is now. And people often fear and attack what they don't understand. And that's human nature. Now, you need more advocates in different areas pushing for this. And that includes rural areas. It's like, you have a few prominent people like Brian Sims and Malcolm Kenyatta that are supportive of these things, and Scott Conklin, he's supportive of these too. And you need more voices in the more rural areas to also push for that. And there needs to be some Republican voices too to also push for it. Now, for my own sake, I'm totally for the bill. Thank you for sharing me the Senate bill. I knew about the House bill, but I didn't know about the Senate bill. 570 is good to know. And in the rural areas, like here in Millheim Borough, we passed an LGBT plus resolution twice the last 2 years. We are the only municipality in the Penns Valley area that's done that. Now, we do have also more exposure to people that are in the LGBT community as well.
Right.
And so part of it, I hate to say it, but it's ignorance. Some of it is ignorance for the advocacy of it. The other things is, we need to have people that are in these areas be willing to advocate and stand up for people. And, luckily our council has done a good job of that. And we do our best to be as accepting and inclusive as we can. And it's kind of put a little bit more pressure on the other municipalities to also be supporters. And it's helped build some bridges in the school district too. And there's a diversity club in our Penns Valley School District, which is heavily LGBTQ plus oriented. But they do accept other people. It's a very inclusive group. So any marginalized people are welcome to be in part of that. But yeah, the Fairness Act, if you care about rights of individuals, and the talking points for Republicans is often about equal rights and equality, then they would be supportive of that bill. Anything that protects marginalized groups, it should be supported. Anything that gives them extra protections.
Okay, but some of them are going to give you pushback saying, well, we have a lot of constituents in our area who will complain that the Fairness Act clashes with their religious liberties. How would you countermand that or counteract that? Especially in regard to public accommodations.
Well, in that case, that's a good question, by the way. But in that case, religious exemptions, to my knowledge, the point of most religions is to help other people and to support other people, regardless of their backgrounds. There's no, and when relating to scripture, there's no actual scripture that goes against, that talks about it. People try to make it, cherry pick it in there, but there's not. And the religion claim kind of perplexes me, because the whole point of religious experiences, religious folks, is to help support their community. And if you have certain members of your community being ostracized, then deliberately, you're not really following the religion, the goal of the religion and your beliefs. So to me, if you're trying to protect people that are being harassed and whatnot, and it's a separation of church and state anyway, you got to push through it. And it's like, I understand the respecting people's values and religious beliefs. However, their religious freedom should not impede or infringe upon the rights and freedoms of other individuals.
Right. And to that end, I've often heard it said that, what about the religious rights of the people in the LGBTQ community, or the fact that when you become a business in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, you receive a licensure from the Secretary of State's office and the Department of Revenue indicating that you're legally allowed to conduct business in the Commonwealth. And you are given some sort of tax code number so that your files can be easily retrieved in Harrisburg. Now, to that end, if you are going to be a legally recognized business, then you should be serving the entire public, unless you're some sort of fraternal organization or a specifically narrowly defined entity, appealing only to a very small class of people. I just don't understand how businesses, especially business owners, could sit back and say, yeah, I don't need those customers.
Well, yeah, I don't get that either. I'll be honest with you. I have no idea why you would deliberately alienate a group of people, or antagonize a group of people just because you don't fully agree with their lifestyle choices. I mean, if it doesn't directly affect you, why would you care? I know it sounds like it's very simplistic, but it's true. It's like, let people live and be happy,
Right.
and let them be their true selves.
Right.
And it's like, I'm not going to judge someone for changing who they are because they want to be more comfortable with who they are. Like, that's not, I mean, I've changed a lot in my lifetime too. Who am I to judge them for, or pick on them or harass them for what they decide to do? As long as it's consenting adults that are not harming people, like, ultimately it doesn't matter. And with businesses, discriminatory practices is not tolerable. It isn't.
Right.
And there's some businesses I know that donate to certain causes that aren't LGBT friendly, and I don't support those businesses. I won't name them specifically because this is not the venue for that. Correct. But I don't. I'm not going to support. They don't get my money, and there's a lot of people that feel that way. And other the extent and laws that are there can be utilized to enforce certain things. I would hope anyway. I would hope. So if someone's doing discriminatory practices, they need to be held accountable legally.
One of the other goals of the Pennsylvania Equality Project is to see that there's a ban on conversion or ex-gay therapy in Pennsylvania for licensed practitioners. Now, other states, Utah comes to mind, have had clever ways to make sure that such a ban is enforced without even going through the legislature. And that is that Governor Herbert, at the time Governor Herbert, simply said, you know what, if you are going to accept any kind of state money at all, you are not allowed to practice conversion therapy. Well, most practitioners in Utah accept state money through Medicare and Medicaid. And therefore, for counseling services, they simply could no longer legally provide conversion therapy to anyone. Didn't matter whether you were a minor or an adult. Here in Pennsylvania, however, we've taken the legislative route. Where do you come down on legislation to ban conversion therapy? And would you take it a step further to ban churches and religions from exercising conversion therapy on their adherents?
So first of all, there shouldn't be conversion therapy. Shouldn't happen. It's not ethical in my mind. You're trying to it's not exactly peer pressure. I'm trying to think of the way to put it, but you're basically using pressure of the church in order to make people not be themselves. And that's not the purpose of a church or an institution of any sort. So I say church because it usually happens in churches. But with me, I would definitely have a ban on any conversion therapy or any of that sort. For any medical institution or therapist or any of that, you can't. It's just not ethical. Like, you're trying to deliberately force people to be a certain way when that's not how they feel they should be. And I like what you said about Utah, what they did, where they're just like, you're not going to get state funding if you do this.
Correct.
And I think that's you kind of have to strong arm some of these areas. Regarding churches, I'm trying to think locally. I don't know of any place locally that does anything like that with conversion therapy, thankfully, that I'm aware of. But for a tax exempt entity to be doing services like that, I would have no problem placing a tax on them then if they're going to be trying to do that. But then they would be like a business, and then therefore they wouldn't get any tax breaks or anything. So for me, it's kind of a no-brainer to strengthen the protections for people against such an infringement on them, such as conversion therapy. So I would go full throttle on that one.
Yeah, I agree, because right now what we have both for non-discrimination and conversion therapy is a patchwork of municipal laws all across the Commonwealth. For example, Allegheny County and Philadelphia County have completely banned conversion therapy. And Erie County has recently been considering such a measure. The city of Erie has already banned conversion therapy, and they've introduced and passed a non-discrimination ordinance. A few years back, the mayor, I believe it was Rick Filippi at the time, introduced a ban on discrimination against LGBTQ employees within city government. So I believe steps like that are important, but now Harrisburg needs to step up and relieve this patchwork of municipal orders and ordinances and replace it with one solid law.
Well, and that's, you're talking about doing change in legislation. One way to go about it is to get more local areas and more counties involved. And once you get enough of them anyway, the state kind of has no choice but to enforce a decent minimum or put a ceiling, depending on how the law is, on things. So you have to start local. That's how you make the biggest changes and impacts on things. And that's, State College could lead the way on that one. They have a good, strong. Sorry.
How would State College lead the way? So
State College is a home rule charter municipality, which means it has more liberties and controls with ordinances. They can place stronger enforcements. Plus, they have the measures to do that. They have the capability. Also, in that area, you have a stronger LGBTQ plus community and organization structure there, and you have also the Penn State students nearby. There's a lot more resources to get movement there at the local level. Even the COG, the Council of Governments there, so that'd be Patton Township, Ferguson Township, State College, and other municipalities right around at College, all those. And you probably get Bellefonte involved too. If State College and Bellefonte do it, then you have more likelihood of getting the county to do something as well. And then it keeps going, a domino effect there. Realistically, out here in Millheim, we have like 900 people. Like we can do resolutions, but we don't have the method to enforce things really. It would defer to the state anyway. So for us, we don't have the capability really to do it. I'm just being real about it. Like the smaller municipalities that are in the middle of they're in the cuts, they don't have the capability or ability to enforce it. Does that answer your question?
It does. Right. So, I mean, there are a lot of areas in Pennsylvania, Potter County or Tioga County come to mind, that they're just simply too small or just not populated enough to be able to have the strength of a countywide ordinance, simply because they lack the home rule charter.
Yeah.
if I understand the law correctly.
Yeah, if they like a home rule charter, they're kind of limited on what they can do. Center County is not a home rule charter county. They can do a resolution, which
Mhm.
has impact because of the population we have. And once again, it's one of those things where like it can lead to change happening. So for the smaller municipalities and counties and population, if they were to do resolutions, that's still supportive because that's still like a public announcement of support for the change.
Okay,
That's how I would go about it. That's just my take.
right. Recently, within the past couple of shows that we've done, we have encountered a number of libraries across Pennsylvania. In Williamsport, for example, the James V. Brown Public Library was under attack by two of the Lycoming County commissioners. I won't mention their names. We've already talked about them on previous programs. But two Lycoming County commissioners spoke publicly at a commission meeting and said that the library should either move books that were for Pride Month away from the children's section, or they should simply put them back on the shelves, out of sight, out of mind. One commissioner even lamented something along the lines of, well, if these people really want this kind of material, they could order it through Amazon, which makes me wonder if, the library is misspending county funds. How would you address that particular commissioner and his thoughts?
Um, the thing is, like, I view libraries as like an arsenal in the war on ignorance. That's a term that I use somewhat often. I would suggest to that commissioner that they should actually read up on the struggle of the LGBT community and what they've gone through in the last few decades, and they're still going through it. It's getting easier over time, luckily. But thought processes like that, clearly there's a lack of understanding there and a need for education. Now, whether that ignorance is deliberate or unintentional is a whole different matter because I don't know the commissioner anyway. Now, legally, outside of strong anti-discrimination laws, and in this case, I don't know legally how you could do anything there. However, they shouldn't pull funding from a library just because of the library's decision to do something. The library is an entity that's trying to serve the local community the way they are, and if they're not getting a high volume of complaints regarding this decision, what's the issue really?
Absolutely. And I'd like to close out today's program by asking one last question, and that regards changes you would like to see made to state government to better serve constituents. In other words, what can state legislators and senators do differently that they're not doing now that would better improve their relations with the public?
I think, in my opinion, I think legislators like to stay in their protected bubbles, generally speaking, where they know that they're going to be openly accepted and tolerated or liked. And I think for many of them, that puts them out of touch with the whole reality of the whole district. Now, just generally speaking, like you take State College, for example, it's about 85, almost 90% Democrats that are there. So a Democrat's going to be very comfortable in that area and holding an event there. However, if you were to go in like Mifflin County, which is about 75% Republican, it definitely favors Republicans a lot more. Democrats don't really go to that area as much. I'm speaking generally.
Right.
But I'm just using that as an example. Whereas Republicans tend to go to those areas more because they know that they have their support there. If you don't engage with opposite sides and different viewpoints, you don't get a better understanding of their situations or what's going on, or you can't even get an idea of how to better message your views to better reach out to those people or inform the individuals. The one thing that's worked out for me here in Millheim, which tends to be a more progressive area out of the Penns Valley region, is I'm very direct with people, and I engage with people with different opposite viewpoints to me quite often. For better or for worse, I don't know yet. It's been a mixed bag. But a lot of the conservatives out here, even though they don't agree with me, they do listen.
Mhm.
And they're just, I had one guy the other day, he's just like, let's see what crazy liberal idea you have that'll work out by chance. Which wasn't meant as an insult, but it reaches an audience you don't think it will reach. Because sometimes there's some things that you can say that can better build those bridges. Because we always talk about unity and trying to build those bridges, but if we're in our own protective bubbles or in our own echo chamber, that's no good for democracy either. So we have to engage with these people that just choose not to understand or choose not, they're trying to just like push people away. You have to engage them.
Mhm.
Those are the people that need the most amount of help. At least that's how I view it. And that's the one thing for me. I'm willing to be in those uncomfortable spots and uncomfortable conversations because that helps build that trust. And that's what's needed. We need to have those uncomfortable conversations in those uncomfortable areas so that way people feel engaged and feel that you're invested in them, even when they know that you disagree with them. So I think legislators in general need to do that better job with that. And that helps everything else.
Well, I tend to agree. And frankly, on that note, I would suggest that local and regional area pride leaders should invite their Republican counterparts to pride events from June through October or November, whenever pride season it gets longer every year.
Yeah,
But yeah, we should be reaching across the aisle and saying, hey, we're holding a pride. You're going to have anywhere from 750 to 1,000 of your constituents gathered in one spot. You're going to have a receptive audience. All you have to do is listen to them and talk with them. And I think they would be astonished at what they learn.
and that's the thing. Like I've been to. I was actually off work, so I could go to the Pride caravan. I guess is what it was this year, and it was a great experience. And
Mhm.
there's some people that I saw that I know are registered Republicans there. So it's not like it's just a partisan thing. It's just life.
Exactly. I mean, you can be a Democrat, Libertarian, Green, or a Republican and be gay. It is possible. I realize there are a few of them, but they're out there and they deserve to be treated with the same level of respect that we treat everyone else, in my opinion. Do you have any final thoughts you'd like to share before we close today?
Well, I guess I'll plug myself shamelessly a little bit. My social media is Zeigler for PA. It's on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. And I do have a website as well. That's pretty bare bones. I'm in the middle of upping that right now and making it look actually better.
Mhm.
But social media, you'll see me on there and question bills and support different local causes as well. And I do like holding events. I won't state that because that's not the program for this, but my events do have music usually, so it's a lot more fun than the typical boring political event. Because I just want it to be fun. Everybody should have fun at things, not just listen to people talk. So, thank you for having me on the show. I appreciate it, and thank you for having me. I appreciate it so much.
You're welcome. And that concludes another episode of Pep Talks Uncut. Join us again next Sunday at 1 p.m. when we'll have another edition with another special guest. Thank you for tuning in, and we look forward to talking with you again next week. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye.